got better things to do," Mauricio said in a whisper, looking up at Donnally, his thinning black hair matted against his head, his face lined like a parched desert lake. He coughed and wiped his mouth. "Then watch a man die." Donnally pulled over a chair. He clenched his jaw as he sat down, anticipating the bite in his hip joint, trying not to let his face show the pain. It was a move he'd practiced for months during his rehab, hoping to deceive the San Francisco Police Department doctors who'd been determined to retire him out on disability. But the move hadn't worked then, and didn't work now. Mauricio glanced toward Donnelly's hip. "Why don't you just get a new one?" He licked his lips and swallowed hard. "I heard the nurse talking about her father. Titanium." He struggled to smile. "Like a golf club, he can square dance again." He raised his eyebrows. "And everything." Donnally shrugged. "I'm used to it." Mauricio stared up at the ceiling fixture set into the sound-muting tiles, and then said, "You gotta let go of the past, Harlan." Donnally knew Mauricio wasn't talking only about the Mission District shootout that had ended his career 10 years earlier, for there had always been a duality in their conversations, one that sometimes left Donnally stranded in the shadowed gap between Mauricio's words and his thoughts. "Give me a good reason," Donnally said. "I'll tell you what I figured out lying here all these weeks. If you're going to be dead to the present, you might as well not be alive at all." Donnally slipped his .32 semi-automatic from the pocket of his jeans and extended it, butt first, toward Mauricio. "You want to shoot me and get it over with?" Donnally asked. Mauricio waved it off. "Been there. Done that." Donnally lowered the gun and squinted at Mauricio, trying to detect a killer behind the mask of the gentleman who fed stray dogs, freed kitchen spiders into his backyard, and gave shelter to the homeless passing through town. "You what?" Donnally asked. In a decade of running their businesses side by side, Donnally figured he'd heard all of Mauricio's stories, knew each step in his migration from Guadalajara to Tijuana, to the Pima cotton fields in southern Arizona, to the California Central Valley, and then to Sacramento. Attending adult school at night, and then community college, working toward the American dream, and finally moving north to Mount Shasta after he'd saved enough money to open his own business, an unnamed fix-it shop and junkyard next to Donnelly's Lone Mountain Cafe. Mauricio blinked, but didn't respond. Donnally figured he was trying to decide what version of his past to tell, for he'd never told the same tale twice, or at least the same one twice in the same way. Perched at Donnelly's counter before daybreak, sipping black coffee, looking out through scratched eyeglasses, he'd talk about when he first met Cesar Chavez outside the Gallo Vineyard in Modesto. Or was it during the pesticide protest in Delano? Or maybe at the grape boycott march to the Capitol? For the first few months after Donnally moved up from San Francisco and bought the cafe, he'd look over at Mauricio and wonder what he was hiding. Back then, when Donnally was still steered by a detective's habit of mind, he plumbed for the big truth behind the little lies. In the end, he came to view Mauricio less as fact than fiction, as a poet of his own life, sometimes just following his words to their own destination, with truth somehow nestled in the sounds and rhythms. Listening to Mauricio day after day, watching him nurse his coffee, Donnally often wondered whether there was any real difference between Mauricio's poetic recreations of his past and his own father's evasions and self-deceptions, except for the rage it generated in him. Donnally slipped the gun back into his pocket. "What do you mean?" Donnally asked. "Been there, done that." "You shot somebody?" Mauricio still didn't answer. He just stared vacant-eyed at the ceiling as though his mind had moved on to something else. Donnally settled back in his chair. There was no reason to press the issue.